We will record anyway. Welcome to the Finalizing the Multimedia Project and ePortfolio Assignment webinar. This is really up to y'all. So you have my attention for an hour, and pretty much that's it. You lose my attention 100% after an hour, and I will be taking a nap because I have been grading and making videos all day. So anyway. So it's kind of an open forum. So if does anybody have any questions about the final question or about the final projects? So I see one here. How do I delete a line of space on my e-readings page? Okay, so Mary, that's going to depend. The key is to, if it's in a table cell, then you would want to go into that cell and just hit backspace or delete until it gets rid of it. If it's outside of a table cell, maybe between two cells or something, or between two tables.
Talking about in Composer?
Yeah. So, well, yeah. So if you have it, it just depends on where it is in that set. So if it's just like you have a paragraph, for example, and then, well, let me see if I can pull something up.
If I heard you correctly, it depends on if it's in the cell or it's in the table?
Well, it depends on where it is in the document. So let me just open this, see if it, I'll share my screen in a second. So I'll share my whole desktop. Can y'all see Composer?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I can look on my desktop. So just give me a moment. I'm just going to pick the shell. So like here, for example, are you talking about like a space in there?
Right.
Yeah. So you can just hit delete.
That doesn't work.
Or backspace, or if you want to get fancy. So if I go to split view here, let me move this up a little bit. As I hit enter and enter, it gives, like, if you go and remove the BR, that's a break. So if you look in the code and see a BR there, you can delete that and it'll get rid of a line.
I have one other question. If you were going to go back into that blank space.
So see how I hit the BR there and I got rid of it and now it's gone. So
sometimes my cursor disappears and I have no idea where it is. What?
It doesn't
you know what
surprise me because I saw your computer. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I don't know what operating system you have, or I mean, there could be some glitch in your operating system in your mouse, or I don't know.
Okay.
If you send me, I mean, the best thing I do for that is I'll Google and I'll say my cursor keeps disappearing, and it may be a does it only happen with certain software? Because if it only happens
in Composer.
Okay, then I would look up Composer software, mouse disappearing.
Okay.
With whatever operating system you have, or that would work. So okay. Couple of things here so Samantha asked for the 4 types of media. Some of them can be extant, right? Yes, you can use existing video. Now I've seen more uses of the word extant since in this class than ever. So
I had to look it up, but now I like use it.
So yeah, it's fun, but it's funny because it's a lot, used a lot. Anyway, so if you created your own images, audio, the biggest thing that I've seen with regards to the multimedia projects that I've looked at so far, just scanned, is even with the audio on the page, you really need to provide the user with guidance on how to use it. So even if there's embedded audio there, there should be something that says click below to get started, or click, if even if it's just introducing the page, you need to at least get the user going on what they're supposed to be doing, how they're interacting with it. So, and then once they get into the audio, maybe you tell them how to navigate and interact with the rest of the content. But if I go to a page and I see an audio player, I'm going to think I should click on it to play, but I'm not necessarily sure. Should I do it in this order and all that? So provide a little bit more guidance, a little bit more context with that. So, yeah. So Samantha, you bring up another good question here. Is I've mentioned that you can use existing video and audio and resources. All 4 types of media do not have to be created by you. So you are using, well, most people will use their audio project. Most people will use graphics. But even if you do use video, you don't have to have created a little piece of video. It just has to be 4 different forms of media. And I don't care who created it. You don't have to have created any of the audio for your project. So, I mean, any of the media for your project. Obviously the text and stuff like that, you'll have created, but as long as you're following copyright, as long as you're not plagiarizing, all of the media could be from other sources, as long as it's, you're providing good context and all that stuff. So Kathy has a silly question. So, so her question is, I can see it in the chat or actually on the screen. Well, actually, can y'all see it on the screen?
Yes.
You can?
I can.
Not on your screen, but we pulled it up by
yeah.
Weird. I'm sharing my desktop, but it's not showing. Like I'm sitting here reading it off the group chat. So anyway, okay. Oh, that's probably why. So how important is it to go back and update changes to the shell, or does the feedback just need to be applied to the multimedia project now that we know more? So Kat, you can totally use a very different web design. That's 100% up to you. If you want to build on your shell and address the feedback, that's one approach. That's completely up to you as well. If you prefer to go and kind of use a template and sort of start from scratch, or just redesign, throw the shell away and start all over, that's completely fine as well. The idea though is that you're showing growth and you're addressing the feedback from, you don't have to specifically address the feedback on the actual shell, but if you are modifying this, if you're creating a new product, then the feedback that was addressed, so being consistent with spacing between objects, size of the banner, kind of typical sort of feedback, color schemes need to be consistent, those types of things. You would want to address those when you're designing and developing your new website. Does that help, Kathy?
So is it going to replace the shell when we upload to that subdomain? Is this just going to replace the shell that we created, right?
So someone's not muted, so I'm getting some feedback. So if you're not talking, can you mute yourself momentarily? So Giselle, good question. So it depends. If you have the same website folder name and you upload it, it's going to replace your shell. But if you just so let me give you an example here. So I have this multimedia shell, and I want to use this as my starting point for my multimedia project. Well, I would just go copy, paste, and then here call it multimedia final or something like that. So then I go in, make all my changes, update all my media, all that good stuff, and then upload the multimedia final, and it won't replace it. Now, you don't have to do that. If you wanted to just build on that multimedia shell, once you're done and you upload that new shell folder, so if I made a bunch of changes to this and then re-uploaded it, then yes, it would replace my shell, but that's fine because it's replacing it with my final multimedia project. So in your ePortfolio, for example, you can link to your shell and your multimedia project, but if they're the same file, same folder, same website, then you don't need to. You can just say multimedia project, and that's totally fine. So yeah, so if anytime you upload the same content or the same name, it's going to replace it. So yeah, so it's kind of up to you which approach you want to take. Okay, does that help? Everybody good so far? All right. Sure you review this. Okay, I wonder if Windows is different than Mac because I wasn't able to do a lot of things on my Dreamweaver. So it'd be the Dreamweaver for Mac and Windows should be very, very similar. So if there are any specific items you're having trouble with, then just email me and we can work on them outside of this, or let me know if you have a specific question here, I can kind of look at it.
Yeah, like the spacing that you just showed, like how to hit backspace and enter, and that stuff didn't seem to work as easily. And also, yeah, Dreamweaver, and also like you just resize the tables just by dragging the tables, but it didn't seem to work as seamlessly for me. So
you can the properties window usually helps with that, so that's a good tool. But yeah, it can be a little clunkier I found on PCs, but that's it's kind of a hit or miss sort of thing. Are you using the updated version, like 2020?
I think so. I just downloaded it like literally for this class, so I think it should be the most up-to-date one.
Those kind of things should be working pretty easily. So I'm not
yeah,
sure.
so I was trying to change, like I put this question, I was trying to change the color of the hyperlinks in a particular part of the table because it really didn't match the colors, but when I changed that, it would change the hyperlinks on the whole page, but I had different backgrounds, so I didn't want it to change on the whole page. I just wanted to change the color of hyperlinks in a particular table. So I don't know if that's possible or not.
Yeah, so what you do is, so I'll show you how real quickly. So let me just open. So yeah, all right. So here, what you need to do is, so all my links are blue right now, but I want to change the ones in this cell. What you do is you create a new inline style. So I'm going to go to window, and you do this in your properties window. So here, for example, I would highlight this, and then I go to CSS and go to new inline style, and then change the color to whatever I want. So maybe like a red is here. And then it changes it there, but all the other ones remain blue, so you can't really see it there. So it's just called a new inline style. So like here, for example, what if I center this text? Let's see if this works. No, it doesn't work. Hold on a second.
Is new inline style how to change the color of the link for that particular link?
So anything you have selected. So when I centered this text, like all text is in this cell is now going to be centered. Well, notice how this isn't centered. Well, the reason it's not centered is because I created this as a new inline style for other basic text. So like if I wanted to go here and then, so hello test. So this is going to be left I can't just center it. So because all the text is left justified, so I can't just like click and center. So what I want to do, if I want to just center this text, I highlight it, create a new inline style, and then click center. I knew it was going to not do that. It's a pain sometimes. New inline style, center. That's why. All right. So it's not working here for some unknown reason. But anytime you want to change, it should, I don't know why it's not doing it. but it should allow you to change that particular content. There may be a tag on it that's keeping it left justified no matter what I do. Let me see if I can center these things. Yeah, there's some kind of, I think there's a style overriding it. But typically what you can do is just go and just select something and then select a piece of text. Like here, I don't want this to be centered, so I would click on it and left justify it. But I couldn't just do that normally. I would have to create it because it's not the same. Everything in this cell follows the same properties unless I give it a new, or the same styles unless I give it a new rule, which is a new style.
Okay.
Sometimes I haven't played around with this in a while, so sometimes there's like background code that's overriding the code I'm trying to illustrate. So, okay, let me scroll up a little bit here. So, Aaron, for the embed audio, there's a real easy way of doing this, and what you can do is if you just get the code. So it's just an audio element. So I don't even have to do the figure.
So I went there and I copied that code and then I altered it to reflect my audio. And I saw it there after I saved it and when I published it, but when I went to go run, it said error. And it was not playing the audio, and I tried it multiple times. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong or.
So it's just an audio tag. So, and then controls and then source. So that one's a little not tricky, but if I go here, I can type, let me see, go to my split view. Okay, so I'll put it below this. So then I'll click off that. And then once I click on this, I find the source file, okay? Now, what's cool is that I really don't have to do that because Dreamweaver has gotten better. Sorry. So now if I want to embed audio or insert audio, I just go to the Insert tab over here. I go to, one second. HTML5 audio, where's that? HTML5 audio. And then once I do that, I just have to find the source of where that is. And this right here automatically puts the player in.
So for those of us using Composer, we would utilize that code.
Yeah, so all you have to do.
And it would work.
Yeah, so if you're using Composer then, let me go to split view real quick. So literally this is where are we at? So this is that's the audio right there, or that's the code, right, the tag right there. So I'm just gonna create a source up. I'm gonna say media, whoops. I'm gonna say media / podcast 1 .mp3. So then when I click on that, so this right here is all I need. Audio controls, the set source type equals mp3. So you can just, if you want to, I'll paste this into the chat window.
Thank you.
If I can find it. There it is.
Yeah, I was trying to use the T-Rex one that we had used
Yeah,
from the example. Yeah, it wasn't working.
Yeah, so right here, the media birds, that's your source. And then that's it. You don't even really need your browser does not support. If you just did audio controls equals control, source equals this, and then Yeah, I guess you do need that because it needs a spacer there. And that's it. And you're good to go. That should work. If it doesn't work, let me know and we'll figure it out.
Thank you.
Sure. And then, sorry, I'm trying to go through the chat window. One more question. Yeah, so 4, Samantha, would be the minimum number of pages for your multimedia project. But I mean, I'm fine with 3 actually. If there's also different styles. So if you have sort of one of the responsive HTMLs that has the scrolling down and uses anchors, that's fine if it's just 1 page, but if it's done in that kind of advanced format, then it's okay. Otherwise 3 would be sort of the minimum, like the shell project. Can you do the audio project? Can you show us? Yeah, so I don't know if I have Audacity on this computer. I think I do. Okay, so hello everybody, how you doing? Come on. Hello everybody, blah, 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 blah. Stop. So then when I go to the effect, noise reduction, we'll get rid of, and you kind of play around with it, and this will allow you to get rid of different types of noise in the background. So there's also some other effects here. There is click removal. So if you're using mouse or the space bar during your audio or narration, it'll remove it. But then also, but you can do that also sometimes with just like going into the WAV file and deleting a little clip of it. And those are probably the 2 best ones. Echo, this is actually giving you the echo, so that's not, you don't want to use that one. Probably noise reduction is probably the best way to do that. And it's, I mean, then you're getting into issues with microphone quality and those types of things. But and those are kind of separate issues right now. So. Okay, course descriptions within the sample multimedia projects pulled from UCF. I'm fine with you using that. Just put quotes, Aaron, and maybe put the link to the source or something like that. Now, if you use, UCF has very specific copyright and rules associated with what images you can use. So I don't want to see any UCF logos on y'all's portfolios. Those are very, UCF's kind of protective of how those are used. So make sure you don't use those on your portfolios when you click on the audio from the site.
How can you determine, like I used a picture of, I went to Google of UCF campus. Should I not use that?
So what I like to do with Google is I'll do an advanced search, and they have free to use, and they have different levels of it. So
There's also UCF Tandem Vault.
there's, what's that? Sorry.
I'll put it here as a Tandem Vault. You can download images from there.
Okay. So yeah, throw it in the chat window. So when I click on here, where's the advanced search? Settings, advanced search. And then, so when I scroll down, I have usage rights. So I have free to use or share, free to use or share even commercially, free to use or share or modify, free to use or share or modify even commercially. So this right here is probably going to be the most restrictive collection of images. And then as you go up, it's going to give you, obviously the not filtered by license is going to give you everything, but free to use or share is going to give you the more specific educational things. And then you can do your image search there. This has some other cool things. You can like set the size of it, the aspect ratio. You can actually pull colors out. So like if I were doing a search for like baseball, but I didn't want to, I wanted specific baseballs, I could take out like green and it wouldn't give me like baseball fields. It would just give me like baseball kind of pictures without the images. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with the advanced image searches. Okay. Okay, moving on. When I see the click on the audio from the site, it opens a black screen. I'll have to look at that, Mary. I'm not sure what's happening. So if you can send it to me, I can take a look at it. And
Thanks.
my embedded image is consistent with my multimedia shell, but I feel like it looks strange in some places. So Aaron, I think the embedded images, so when you're embedding content, typically they're going to be a little bit different in size. I think that's what you're getting at. So the embed of the audio, or the embed of the narrated PowerPoint, or and versus the images, the screenshot images, it's going to look weird to have like a really big screenshot and a really tiny embed of the graphics layout, or vice versa. So I guess really the key comment there is to just make it look good. So, you know, they don't have to be exactly the same size, but try and work with them so that they look like they complement each other and work well within the design of the page itself.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, to comment really fast, she had talked about the black screen. I'm working in Composer too, and I don't know if you're talking about, but when I go and add a web page or something, it shows a black screen, but when I go and publish it and view it on the web page, I can see it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's what was meant by that comment. So just pointing that out.
So Mary, if that's what you're talking about, that when you embed it, when you do the code and all, or add the audio on the actual Composer page, it's not going to be visible to you until you go and upload it to the web. So good, thank you for that. You could do it also locally, I believe, as well. So if I did the audio, let me just see here. So obviously you can't do that. So if I go to here, split view, down here below. Okay, I'm just going to paste this here. To design view. Okay, save. And let me see if I can open this in. So which one is this? Authoring. So yeah, so here you can do it locally. See, all I did was add that code there. It doesn't have any audio there because of the source doesn't exist, but all I did was add that player there. And if you just open it locally, you don't have to actually upload it. You can just open that file in Chrome and preview it there. So Mary, so it's probably there. It's just not showing up.
There, and it plays, but when it's playing, you're not seeing the website anymore. Now you're just seeing a black screen. I thought that was kind of weird.
Did you link to it, or did you embed it?
Not sure.
If you embedded it, if you link to it, it's probably going to open in a black screen. But if you embedded it where you have that player, so if they click on this to play the audio and it goes to a black screen, that's weird. So I would have to see what that is. But if it's open, if it's a link like this, and then you click it and it opens a big black screen with this in the middle of it, and you play it, then that just means you linked to it and didn't embed it into the page. So
Can you review for 1 second again how to do the embedding? Because I think I must have linked it then.
So
That's what you just did. You just embedded it before.
Right. So when I went to Composer, so I copied that code which I put in the chat window, in the chat screen. And let me just find a page real quick. And so I put it, put my cursor where I want it to be. So I'm going to put it after this get Amaya thing. I go to split view, kind of figure out exactly where I want it. So Amaya is an open source tool. I want it to go after my YouTube stuff. So I'll put it there. And then I click here and it's going to be down there. So I save that. And I'm just going to go back to Chrome real quick and refresh. And now the player is right down there. So in the split view, you just figure out where you want it to go. So I'm put my cursor there. And then when I'm there, I go to the split view and then just paste the code in there.
I'll try that. Thanks.
Sure. Okay. Thanks for that, Giselle.
I have a question about that. If we can use logos, in my case, I was working on a page for my department, and I mentioned their names, UCF, Rosen College of Hospitality Management, and leave out logos or have an image there.
If they're okay with it, then that's fine. If you've set up with them that you're doing this project, but I would check with them.
Okay, yeah, that was the plan to eventually add that to the main webpage.
Yeah, I thought that you had that kind of plan all along. So that makes sense. But if you're on your ePortfolio, for example, if you have like the UCF tab in your banner, that's a problem. So those kind of things.
Thank you.
Maybe I'm not sure. Do you want to share your screen real quick or?
I can do.
All right, let me stop my share. Okay, go ahead. You should be able to now.
Yep. Can you see that?
Yep. So
should I highlight the whole box?
no, just the link that you want to do. You want it, so that's a link, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So why is so you're having that formatting icon there is weird. So if you can click off, why is there a box like?
So that's what I'm like. I think everything just looks like it keeps giving me these boxes where I don't need them
Here's the issue. So see how you go up top? See how you're in live view? You need to change that to design. So you have code, split, and live is blue. Very top center.
It might be behind where this thing is. Hold on, the Zoom thing's in the way.
It's at the very top of the screen. I can see.
Yeah, I can't see it because the Zoom thing is blocking it. So let me.
Yeah, okay, I see.
How do I get rid of this thing?
So just click on the drop down arrow.
Yeah.
You move Zoom out of the way.
Okay, so I want to go in split.
Nope, you want to go into design. So click on there you go. Yeah, so that's why it looks different.
Oh.
So now it looks pretty much, so click on that. Now go to your, there you go. Yep.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Uh-huh.
So this is what we should be editing in, like everything?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to make this table bigger as well, would it just, oh.
Yeah,
okay.
there you go.
No, but I don't want to do that.
Mind blown, right?
Yeah, so how would I make the whole table bigger? Because this is actually one table.
Yeah, so you would need to select the whole table. So the outer edge of the table. No, what table are you trying? The whole navigation menu or the?
Yeah, the navigation menu.
So yeah, so there's a click on the very outside edges of it and kind of hold and drag.
Okay.
And so I can't tell. It doesn't look so. Try that, and then you can go down to the properties window. So, so if you're just trying to make the individual cells like taller,
Yeah,
then
like I want
I
it
would
to fill this box.
I would just grab each cell, or you can kind of, actually, if you select all 4 cells together, like all at once.
Okay.
Okay. So now go down to your, if you look at the properties tab, you see where it says H, just to the right of where you are. So you can give them a specific height. So just put 180 just to try it. And so that's pretty big. So you definitely don't want 50,000 180. Now you're making, okay. So yeah. So yeah, try 50. Now you're going to have to, you just scroll back up, or just do undo a couple times. Because what happened is when you did that change, it just moved everything down. So
Okay.
yeah, there you go. So now highlight them again, and then just kind of play until you get something that you like.
So how come this view suddenly looks different now that I'm highlighting the table?
Because now you have the whole table selected on the outside. So
Okay.
that's what I was trying to get you to do before, when you wanted the whole table to be edited. But if you want to edit the width of the cells, or the height of the cells, then you need to, it's probably easier to do it the other way. Okay, yeah, that might.
Okay. Okay, I'll play with that.
So,
Thank you very much.
play around with it. But if you go to About Me now, you can see contacts not as big as the other 3, but they look good.
Yeah.
So you might just drag that one down just a little bit, down at the bottom, that handlebar at the bottom of the cell, that right below the end.
Yeah.
And that might
Okay.
work. But if not, you can just play with the heights in the properties window.
Okay, thanks. I can't figure out how to stop my screen share now, so.
Oh, I'll do it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So let's see. So Erin says if she makes the screen 90% of the window and then have all the content fit in that, would that suffice and not result in horizontal scrolling? Yeah. So if it's 90% of the window, then what that means is that the width is 90% of whatever browser window it's opened up in. Now, it's not optimized for tablets and mobile devices unless you're using responsive HTML. HTML5, but that'll work for the purposes of what we're doing. I'm not going to be opening them up and viewing them on a phone. So the idea of these are that they're web-based or desktop or laptop-based websites. Now, if you're going above and beyond and like playing with responsive sites and that sort of thing, that's perfectly fine. But the 90%, that just means that the browser window, that table makes up 90% of the browser window. So it would not result in any horizontal scroll.
So that would be any resolution. It's 90% in any resolution or any screen size.
Yeah.
It's all 90%.
Yeah, any screen size. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, yeah. The problem is like when you get into mobile, then 90%. If you're trying to get that content, what you're going to get is a bunch of like jumbled content. Is really what the problem is. But yeah, that's not the expectation for this course. So
I think I tried to create the multimedia shell by myself, and then I got too far along where I didn't want to go to a template, but I used a template for the portfolio, which was much easier.
Yeah, they're nice. But you have to crawl before you walk, kind of thing.
Yes, I did the opposite. Now I'm crawling towards the end.
Nice. All right. What else?
I have a couple of questions. Do you mind if I ask them instead of type them?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. The template that I used, the design elements, the thumbnails that were given to me on the pages, they were made to be different sizes. And in your feedback, you had said that resize them so they're all uniform in the same size, but the template had them to where they were different sizes. So do you want me to change them to be uniform size, or do you want me?
It depends on what it looks like.
Okay.
It's hard for me to say now. If I saw it, I could kind of, but I mean, some of them having different things, particularly if they're different dimensions, something tall and thin versus square versus, long and skinny, then they're going to be different sizes. but you want it to be relative. You want the sizes to be relative to each other.
Okay.
But it also depends on the purpose. I mean, there's a lot of factors that come into place, play. So when I'm looking at those, I go, okay, does this make sense? That's kind of
Okay.
the gist of it. So if they're different sizes because of dimensions, if they're different sizes because of relative importance or some other reasons, then that's completely fine. But it should, as I'm going through it, the idea is it should make sense to me. The user shouldn't go, why is that? It's because if there's no purpose to it, then it creates this visual conflict. And then they're spending like cognitive processing on figuring out why the design is like what it is rather than the content.
Okay. So I should just remember that wording of the visual conflict. If I'm seeing, if the user is seeing visual conflict, then that's what you're going to see in your evaluation pretty much.
Yes.
Okay. Second question is citing. And I know that you've brought up some citing with like the UCF logos and trademarks and everything, but mine's really about content of citing. So for example, if I use a PDF linked to information that I'm using or a YouTube video, are we to cite like an APA citing? And if so, where are we placing that?
So YouTube videos are pretty much, if you have access to it, the URL, they pretty much shared it for the most part. So I don't think they're really, you can look at the licensing on it, but those are typically free to use kind of things. Now, if you're looking at a PDF document, that depends. So is the PDF document a citation of itself? Are you saying, if it's something that can be shared and the user or the owner doesn't have a problem with you using it, but they want you to credit them, then you could say something like used with permission of blah, blah, blah. You could do a credits page. You could do a contact page. You could do a footnote, a footer. I mean, you could do a caption on an image or a caption next below a link. So there's a whole array of ways that you can give credit. I don't need APA citations for everything. It just needs to make sense. So if like in your readings or for the ePortfolio, I need to be able to find that reading. So you're providing me enough information where I can go in and I could do a Google search or search the UCF library or whatever and find that resource. Kind of the same thing here. You need to give enough credit to where people could find the source of that information if they needed to. Is that it?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Rachel, regarding the portfolio, I changed the readings page to a teacher work sample page that links rubric. It has categories for not all of these things. As long as you have 6 items, 3 of each, then Rachel, it'll be fine. As long as you have and descriptions, sort of brief annotations for the resources and all, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't have to go specifically by the rubric for that particular page. I allow a little bit of flexibility with that one. Another question about the 90% window. That would be, Aaron, the 90% window would be for width. Vertical scrolling is perfectly fine, but it's the horizontal scrolling that becomes a problem.
Is there a specific like pixels or something or percentage that you usually recommend for horizontal?
Well, no. The reason is the reason is you need to know who your users are. So if I'm working in video production and I know everybody has one of these kind of screens, then I can be pretty large with the widths on my web pages. But if I know that people are accessing it on Kindles, then that's going to be a very different design and layout. So it just depends on who your end user is. Back when I was designing and when I was in grad school, it was 800 by 600 was sort of our standard. I guess I'm aging myself a bit, aren't I? But like the most monitors were like, we were just getting into the 1080 kind of things. So 800 pixels by 600 was sort of what we would design our tables for. Whereas now, 1280 is it 1280? Whatever it is, the 1200s. That's pretty small for a monitor. My laptop now is in the 1560s, something like that, 1580, whatever it is, something like that. Can't add.
So it's just 90% for the web.
Yeah, 90% just means that if I open it in a full screen browser, it's going to take up 90%. If I have 10 browsers open and I have one doing 50% of my screen, it's going to open up. When I open it up in that 50%, it's still not going to horizontally scroll.
Understood. Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, Giselle, you shouldn't have issues at all with Dreamweaver in the lab, as long as they have access to it.
Yeah, looks like they do. I just got to remote in and I was able to access the with the creative media package.
Okay.
And it looks like I have access. So I was thinking of working from there. And it just came to my mind how we save that.
The biggest thing would be where your local site folder is. So when I'm working on multiple computers, what I will do is I'll put my local site folder on a flash drive, and then I'll move. And like when I set up my site, I'll set it up as a flash drive. So then when I open up Dreamweaver, it's referencing that flash drive on my desktop, and then I can do uploads from wherever. Now, if that's a problem, then what you can do is make the changes remotely. So you could work on your remote, like let's say you're at your lab, but your local desktop is at home. You can work on this is just an example. You could work remote on your file that's remote, like everything that's on the web. And then when you go home, you could sort of do a reverse. Instead of uploading it to the web, you download it to your local site folder. So you have synced everything essentially.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. In Composer, linking to a new window for my external links. So Mary, so pretty much you want the links to open in new windows when it makes sense. So definitely external links, because you don't want people going to visit a link and then going to close that link and now they're out of your site. So that makes sense. But if it's an internal link that doesn't kind of, well, usually non-navigation internal links would open in new windows. So like if you have a sub page or something like that, or a link that you created where they click on the link in one of the pages and go off to it, but it's not, if they were to close it, then it would get rid of your page. If the way they would interact with it was to close it after they were done interacting with it, and that would close your site, then you would want it to open in a new window. So it's kind of a how they're interacting with it sort of question that's going to influence whether it's a external or an external tab or a new tab or the same tab.
I have another question that I probably should have asked like 5 weeks ago. But I was looking at the descriptions for the multimedia projects, and so my topic is like an introduction to sewing, like sewing projects. And this whole time I was thinking that my project fell under option 1, create a multimedia presentation for some topic in your specialization area. But like I'm a 10th grade English teacher, so technically that's not in my specialization area.
Right, that's fine. I told y'all at the beginning that it could be pretty much anything you wanted. So hobbies, passions outside your job, it's up to you. Okay. So specialization area is very broad in this case. So I literally had somebody do one on how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and it was really a good like multimedia project. But that was their project was how to make a how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. They went into different types of peanut butter and different types of bread, and it was a really good project. So I've seen, and yeah, I usually like to see the different creative ones here. I used to teach the intro to multimedia class, and I guess they would cover a certain subject area in one of their methods or content area classes at the same time I had an assignment due. So they would make PowerPoints at one point, and I would have to do sort of advanced stuff with PowerPoint. But because a lot of the students were in the same content area class, I would get like 40 PowerPoints on Shakespeare and and it was just like, oh my God. So I would actually, after the second time that happened, I was like, all right, if any of y'all do a PowerPoint on Shakespeare, there's going to be problems. So anyway, any more questions? I digress. Are you telling me I'm boring, Jennifer? Because I'm going to take a.
No, Shakespeare. No, Shakespeare's boring. I teach
This-
government and
Well, just imagine
macroeconomics, so Shakespeare's super boring.
it was a scaled down version of y'all's graphics layout presentation. So imagine how, those take me a really long time to grade because I have to listen to them and navigate through them and make sure it makes sense and all. So imagine 40 of those on Shakespeare or whatever the topic is. It doesn't really matter what the topic is. 40 of those on anything is going to, I get grayer quicker because of those kind of things. So Aaron, you were not allowed to ask any more questions about the table width. So 90% of the table tells 80% doesn't matter though. So what I did, and I'm not sure if I'm getting this, but so if you make your outer table 90% and then maybe you split the cells up inside and you put another table inside that, you can make that 100% of that cell. So is that what you're asking?
I guess for me, I'm going to make my whole table 90% of the window, but I made the content within that table a certain percentage of the table because I might have bullet points or what have you, and I wanted it more centered in the page. Is that okay that it's not 100%?
Oh yeah, you want a little spacing on the edges and that sort of thing. So it needs to look good. That's really
okay.
So I don't have a guideline specifically for that. So just as long as it looks good.
For the ePortfolio project, for the projects page, I know we're including the things we've done in class, but if we include other things, can we just link externally to those websites? Like we want to link to a YouTube video?
Yeah, anything you want to include. Well, if it's a YouTube video, I would embed it into the page, but you can include as many projects outside of this course as you want. It's your portfolio.
Okay. So every project should have its own page kind of dedicated to displaying whatever we show on the screenshot?
So if you're embedding it, you don't need a screenshot.
Okay.
And if you're just linking to it like your shell or your multimedia project, then you would have a screenshot of those.
Okay.
So yeah. And if it's something outside of this class, so let's say it's a paper you did and you just want to link to that paper as a Word document or PDF, you don't have to embed that because it doesn't make sense necessarily. But you can just provide a link to it. That would be fine.
Okay, thank you.
So yes, Samantha, we did talk about how to embed a PowerPoint into the portfolio website. What you do is you use Office 365. And I don't know if I can, let me see if I can get there real quick. Give me a second. I know I haven't shared my screen with you. But
I can look at last week's webinar. Okay.
Okay. But when you go, so essentially what you do is when you go to Office 365, open your PowerPoint or upload it or whatever, then over on the right, there's your navigation menu, where you have file, save, share, and then there's share. When you click on share, the second option is embed. And then it'll give you the embed code and you can play with the size and all that there. And you just take that code and plug it into your site.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much.
Sure. Rachel, blocks of text are fine if they're appropriate for the user. So if it just depends on who the end user is. If I'm dealing with third graders, I'm probably not going to have a ton of, really small text. But if I'm dealing with seniors or grad students, the more text is perfectly fine. So it just depends on who the end user is. And if you're explaining the way they interact with the tools and that sort of thing and makes sense, that's perfectly fine.
I have a question now related to the project. It's a
Hold on one
curiosity or your opinion. I know we learned how to make the PowerPoint, the narrated PowerPoint, but I see in your classes that you have videos, you have everything on YouTube. So now with Zoom, where you can actually put your face there on the little square and put your PowerPoint and run your PowerPoint and narrate that way, would you recommend that we do that for our classes instead of the narrated PowerPoint? It was great to learn, but I'm thinking if it's more dynamic to have on YouTube.
It depends on the, you know, there's no interactivity on those videos on YouTube. Y'all are just watching me talk or whatever it is. So it depends on what you're trying to, what your end goal is. And, you know, it depends on who your learner is, how familiar they are with the content, how complex the content is. You know, all of these factors come into play when you're deciding what's the best way to teach it. I mean, if y'all had videos of this every week and then we had another webinar every week or two of me lecturing the content to you, there's really not a point for me doing those kind of lectures, right? The kind of how-to interactive sort of thing where y'all can ask questions, that's going to be more useful in this kind of setting. So it just depends on what the content is, what your ultimate goals are, because the type of goals, what you want the learning outcomes to be, that's going to impact that as well. This is all stuff you're going to learn in the program. So.
But in between a narrated PowerPoint and just record it and put on YouTube as a link, wouldn't that the end goal is the same? It's just, I wonder how it's easier for the end user to watch.
So y'all did the narrated PowerPoints where maybe you have interactivity, so they navigate on their own by clicking on the links and all. Well, that's not going to be useful as a video because they're just watching it. Whereas if you have it as an embedded PowerPoint, then they can still have that interactivity and stuff. So
yeah,
that's where the difference is.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
So Rachel has a question. We're down to more steps. I don't know, Rachel. I would have to see it. It depends kind of question. So, any more questions?
No, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. So I get to go take a nap now. Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Are you available this week if we're working on it and we have questions? Can we email you or?
What do you think?
That would be a yes. But I don't want to answer for you because you are a busy person.
Yeah, I am a busy person, but I am available. Yeah, I'll be pretty much in front of my computer quite a bit this week. My goal is to get your audio projects to you tonight, and then those are pretty quick. But the graphics layouts I'm still working on, and I usually do 2 run-throughs with those. And I'm on my second run through, or just starting the second run through. So you'll get grades on those. My goal is by Wednesday. I'll be available. I do have a lot of little meetings here and there this week. So reach out to me sooner rather than later. I will not be available the second half of Friday or at all on Saturday. Well, maybe Saturday afternoon. I have a golf tournament in the morning on Saturday. So I will not be answering emails on the golf course, I promise you. So,
I have golf Wednesday morning, so I won't be.
And my wife's out of town, so I'll have Sunday, I'll be home working. So I have a book. We have a book coming out next. Me and a colleague have a book coming out, so I'm trying to get some video resources done for that. So I'll be working pretty much this weekend. So, I will be. Yes, that's the answer. The long answer is yes. So.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, you've emailed me back at 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'm pretty sure you're available all the time. Thank you.
Yeah, I try to be. So, all right. Anything else?
Yeah.
You're welcome. All right. If you do have questions outside of this, you know where to find me. All right. Bye, y'all. Have a
good night. Bye.
Have a good week. Oh, I know some of y'all are still here. The test 2, I moved the open date back to Friday, so you have Friday to Friday for test 2 now. And again, it's open book, but I'll talk more about that in an announcement. I have to post an announcement on the pack back and other things. So I'll post that tomorrow morning. All right. Bye, y'all. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.